it's me and today I'm here with my August wrap up. I didn't read too many books in August, I only read 8, which honestly sounds like a lot, but like 3 of those were graphic novels, so I just kind of, August happened by me. It started and it ended, and what happened in the middle, I don't know. Let's just get started. The first book I finished this month is The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski, which is a short story collection in the Witcher universe. It's the first book you technically have to read in the series, so that's what I did. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. For short story collections, I rate every single story separately, and then I tally them up to like an average. And yeah, if you want to know my thoughts on each individual story in this short story collection, again, check out my blog post. I have an entire book review for that. The Witcher series takes place in a world where there's humans and monsters, and basically a witcher is a sort of modified human who gets hired to kill monsters because, I don't know, they're dangerous. And we follow Gerald, who is a witcher, and yeah, in this short story collection we just follow some of his adventures, you know? I really enjoyed some of the stories, but I had a hard time with others. If you read that review, you'll see that a lot of stories I just had a hard time focusing on, and I still haven't figured out if it's a problem with the stories of me at the time reading it. It's complex. I read this at the beginning of the month and I just had a hard time focusing on some of the stories. I don't know if it was me or the stories, and I still haven't figured it out by the end of the month, so who will ever know. I really think this world is very interesting, and I loved learning more about it. Every single story that we read, because every single story expanded on the world in a little bit. I really like that. Then the next book I read this month is The Diviners by Libba Bray, which again is the first book in a series. Who am I? No, I actually start a lot of series, I just don't finish them. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. This book is about a girl, a main character, Evie, and she has this sort of magic thing, and that gets her in trouble in her hometown, so her parents send her away to her uncle, who has a museum for like the supernatural history of America in New York. So she goes there, and her uncle gets recruited in a murder investigation because they think this murder has something to do with like a cult or something, and because the uncle has a lot of information about that in his museum, they just work together with him, and Evie gets whipped into this as well, as also just living her life in 1920s New York, you know, having fun. Yeah, but I did really enjoy the story. What you hear in most of the reviews is very atmospheric and scary, and it was very atmospheric, but like I didn't really get scared by it. Yeah, I don't know what it was, but I just didn't think it was that spooky. I know it's very well known for being scary, but I was alright with it, and I got scared pretty easily. So maybe if you've been putting off this book, reading this book because you're afraid it would scare you, it's not that bad. I say, but like it's different for everybody, I guess. I really liked learning about like the supernatural powers in this world, and yeah, just the whole setup of this world, which technically isn't our world, but like there's also the supernatural aspect to it, and it's so interesting. I get so sucked into it, and it's great. The only thing that made me like dock the star was that there's a lot of perspectives in this. It's mainly about Evie, but like we also get perspectives from other characters, which I'm assuming those characters will be important in later books, and that's why it already like they're getting introduced into this book. And the characters are very interesting, but when you just get introduced to them, like in the first half you get introduced to them, and it just gets confusing, you know, because there's so many. It's hard to keep track of everyone. The next book I read, it was The Empress by SJ Kincaid. This is the sequel to The Diabolic, which I read in 2016 when it came out, and I loved. So then when this book came out in Dutch, because it came out a little while after it came, I feel like the sequel came out like I believe a year after The Diabolic, and then in Dutch it took 2 years to be published, but oh well. So when it came out in Dutch I picked it up, and I reread The Diabolic in the beginning of the year in preparation for this book, but I just hadn't got around to actually reading this book yet, but I got around to it this month, yay. And this is a sci-fi that takes place in a future where basically everybody lives on spaceships, like the elite, and then the commoners live on planets, but like nobody lives on Earth anymore. And in this world, they also have these things called diabolics, which are created to protect one person with their whole life. Basically, their only purpose is to protect this one person. And we follow a nemesis who is a diabolic and is assigned to one of the senator's daughter. And this senator is not really in good terms with the emperor, so when the daughter gets asked to go, not asked, demanded to go to the palace to meet the emperor, the senator doesn't trust this, so he and his wife sent Nemesis instead. I guess he did learn the Diabolic originally was a standalone, and because there was so much demand from fans who wanted to know what happened after Diabolic, the author decided to extend it into a trilogy. And this felt so differently from the Diabolic, and like, the Diabolic has an open ending, but like it's satisfying enough. So it makes sense for there to be more books, but I don't know, I gave this 4 stars, so I don't entirely regret having another book, but it also did a lot of things and I'm just maybe not that sold on. My main problem with this book is the pacing. Everything just happened very quickly. A lot happens in this book, and it just an average. It's like right under 400 pages, but this feels like if you calculate everything that happens, it feels like a 1000-page book because so much happens in it and so many characters just get flipped on their head out of nowhere seemingly because we don't get enough time to settle with these changes in this world, and it just, yeah, made me dislike everything. The next book I read this month was Avengers, Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Abnett. I will see like these novelizations, like just like these novels of Marvel stories for a while in bookstore, and I've bought a couple. This is the first one I actually picked up because it's short, you know, it's fun. But that didn't give it 2 to 5 stars, so I wasn't too big a fan of it, but like all of these books are written by different people, so I still have hopes, you know. This book in particular is about the Avengers and 5 of their biggest villains kind of just had the idea that they wanted to rule the world all of a sudden on the same day at the same time. So the Avengers kind of split up and deal with these villains like one-on-one. And then also their communication system falls out, so they can't communicate with each other. And yeah, basically have to prevent these villains to take over the world, but also trying to figure out what's going on, because like, why can't we communicate with each other? Why all these all that was happening at the same time? And yeah, wasn't that great. So I already talked to these 5 villains and they all split up into like to fight these 5 villains individually. So this whole book is split up in 5 storylines. So it's short, it's very short. It's not even 300 pages. I don't know how long it is. It's 263 pages. That's how long it is. And it tells 5 stories. Yeah. Because it was so short, what I assumed was it would just be like 5 small stories that would contain like the half of the book. And then the other half of the book we were gonna team up to fight like the bigger evil. But the team up only happened like 20 pages from the end. And it was very unsatisfactory because it happened so quickly. You know, defeating the big evil happened in 20 pages. You spent 200 pages doing like these smaller things, and then 20 pages on like the big evil. Like, it just didn't make sense. And also just because it was so much flipping between the storylines, I never really got attached to a single one of them, so I was pretty bored throughout the entire thing. The next book I'm going to talk about is Monstress by Majorie and Takeda. I just was feeling a little bit slumpy, so I wanted something. The thing that gets me out of a slump is finishing a book, so I picked up a graphic novel because it would be a quick read, you know, and it gets me out of a slump, and it did. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. The art style in this is gorgeous. It's very dark, but like it fits with the story. But it's very beautiful. So I give this 4 to 5 stars because I loved everything about this book. The art style is fantastic, like I showed you. It's great. And the world was also very interesting. In this world there's like people, like humans and kind of monsters, but not really. It gets explained, but it's hard to explain in like a short synopsis type way. And basically there's a war between like these 2 parties, and our main character is a monster-like creature where she's human passing, but like she still gets enslaved, and she has like this branding on her chest from her people, and the person who buys her is very intrigued in that. And honestly, that's just the first 10 pages, but I feel like if I explain more than that, it's gonna like ruin the surprise for you. I think this is definitely a book you should go in blind. It's adult fantasy, I also just want to stress that, but I had a great time reading this graphic novel. It just felt very introductory to me. I love the characters, I love the world, and I can't wait to spend more time with these characters in this world and develop more of the story because it's so interesting. But it felt like a setup to me and wasn't really up to its highest speed yet, you know? So I'm hoping depends on which direction they decide to take this in, but I'm hoping that the rest of the series will be a 5-star all-time favorite because this was great. I was on a graphic novel kick, so I kept reading graphic novels, and I'm going to talk about these two at the same time because I read them back to back and they're in the same series, and that's Heartstopper Volume 1 and 2 by Alice Oseman. I'm first just quickly going to put Volume 1 up here. I read these on Tapas, which is a app or website that you can read like webcomics on for free. You can also pay for some, but like mostly free, and Alice Oseman has published that's where originally Heartstopper was published, and it's still being published. And yeah, I basically read what's equivalent to Volume 1, which is Chapter 1 and 2, and then the equivalent for Volume 2, which is Chapter 3. I give both of the volumes 5 out of 5 stars because they're great. Basically just two boys falling in love. One is gay and out and proud, and they're at a boys' school, and they basically just come in a class together, start hanging out together, and then the other person, who has always assumed he was straight, is kind of confusing his sexuality because he really likes this guy, and it's adorable. I absolutely love this. The first volume is mainly focused on them developing a friendship, and like towards the end it turns more into like a little bit romancy, and then the second volume is full on romance, and it's great. And then Volume 2, basically the exact same as before, but like I said, this is more focused on the relationship and Nick dealing with his sexuality and not really knowing what he is, who he is, and the only thing he knows is, I have liked girls in the past and I'm really in love with this guy now, and he's kind of just trying to figure out what that means, as well as like being scared of coming out a little bit. And again, wholesomeness in its entirety. So adorable and cute, and I love this, and I really related to Nick in this volume, so that's great. I can't wait to read more, which technically I can, but like I want to mark it on Goodreads, and that I can't yet. So finally, the last book I read this month, you might have seen this before, Son of Destiny by Andrzej Sapkowski. Basically, Dutch publishers put these two books into one, so that's why I'm holding up the same book twice, but I read these separately. From here on out, the Sword of Destiny starts, so that's what you know. I'm not going to explain what this is about again because I talked about it in the first book, but yeah, this is the second short story collection in the Witch World, and yeah, I had less of a hard time focusing on these stories. I figured something out with this book. I really love this world, and throughout these stories also fell in love with these characters more and more, and I got really attached to them. But the short story collection format doesn't work. I again gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. Technically it's a 2.8 if you really average it, but like I wanted it up to a 3-star. I have a blog post for all of the short stories reviews, so you can go check that out if you're curious. But yeah, if you read any of these books, let me know comment what you thought of them, and also some of the books you read in August, I'd love to discuss. And yeah, those were all the books I read. I don't know why I showed you the non-spine side, but yeah, that's all. And yeah, I guess I'll see you guys next time. Good.
Here I am again, the same old situation. What does the